But yes, welcome. So, this is Kevin from Prismatic Speech Solutions. Um, we are doing a voice training session here today. I have been doing these once every 2 weeks for I've what 7 sessions in at this point. Um,
Yeah, a handful. I should look that up. I don't remember off the top of my head, but yeah, somewhere right around there.
I think so. I think so. Oh, somebody says the live stream setup part is over, so they're leaving. That was their favorite part. That's cute. Um, and yeah, we've
Yeah,
just
that's
sort of decided that we wanted to do this and stream it live. The idea here is because there's a lot of people that don't know what goes into trans voice training. It's kind of a daunting and intimidating task, and hopefully we can kind of clear up what that looks like. Trans Melody, thank you for the follow. Um, and yeah, I guess we're probably just going to kind of go for it. We're also going to be taking some questions from chat. Kevin, would you prefer to take questions as we go or to do Q&A at the very end of this?
that's a good question. I mean, I'm good to answer questions as we go. That sounds good.
Perfect. Perfect. Thank you. Okay. I'm gonna go ahead and mute the widget that goes off every time I get an alert. I don't usually like to do that because I like to notice all of the alerts, but today is a special occasion. So we're gonna
Might influence some recordings later on.
yes, that's true because we will be posting highlights of this on TikTok as well as be posting it on Twitch. Thank you for the bit donation, Mary Kate. Um, And yeah, so I guess why don't you take a second, introduce yourself, say who you are and what you do, in case anybody here is curious.
That sounds great. Hello, Internet. My name is Kevin Dorban. I use they, them pronouns. I am a non binary speech language pathologist who specializes in long distance transgender vocal training. Through my business, Prismatic Speech Services, for the past 5 years, my primary mode of practice, the primary audience that I have served, has been transgender people, largely and vastly online, because not everyone can live or does live close to a voice center. So, finding ways to deliver these services online has been instrumental. I'm based out of Greensboro, North Carolina, but I work with folks all over Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, and Virginia. And I also have a non binary contractor, Rye, who serves clients for Prismatic Speech Services in New York and New Jersey. In
Hmm.
terms of like more personal stuff, I come from a background of like theater and singing and voice acting. I was a voice actor, amateur to semi professional voice actor for about half a dozen years in a cappella and all that fun high school stuff. Um, so yeah, I use a lot of those methods in my sessions when I can. But my primary job is to be reactive to what my client wants to do and what they want to work on and how things work best for them.
Perfect. So I guess we're gonna just go ahead and start the session. We usually start by saying hello to each other, but I think we've already done that. So hello.
Hello! How has your voice work been coming along?
So my voice work for the week has been coming along pretty well. I did have a friend staying with me this week, so I didn't get as much of the like, just repetition practice in as I usually been doing. But I got more of the sentence practicing because they were okay with me just sort of playing with my voice while we were talking.
Awesome. Okay, so it was like conversation level voice work.
Yes, yeah.
Excellent. How do you feel like it went?
I think it went well, at least better than it has in the past, as is traditional with practicing,
Love to hear it.
which is nice. I still do sort of just completely forget and drop out of it and go back down to my like kind of older voice, but that is happening less, and even my like default register is not as low as it used to be.
Awesome. Can you notice, like, in the moment when your voice is starting to dip down? Or is it mostly like thinking back on it later?
Uh, I don't notice that it's happened, but I'll be talking and I'll just be like, oh, my voice has gotten deeper again. Interesting, and I'll try to bring it back up. Occasionally there will be a remark of just like, "Oh, hey, you noticed your voice," and I'm like, "Yeah, shut up, shut up."
um, this might be a hard question to answer. But about how long do you feel like you can maintain it before you feel like it starts slipping down? Like it's pretty quick, or
How long can I maintain it? That's a good question. I'm actually not entirely sure.
that's
That'll be something to pay attention to. I'll make everyone I'm talking to take note of when it stops.
excellent. Recruit everyone as spies. I love it. One of my clients recently found an app called Mindfulness Bell that might be useful for this purpose.
Mindfulness Bell.
Yeah, it's a free app, or at least on Android, it's free. I don't know what you got over there. Um, and you can set it up to play a charm or a beep or something at regular intervals. So you can put it at like 1 minute or 5 minutes or so. Um, so like maybe next time you're talking to someone and you're working on your voice, if it's comfortable for you, uh, set this up as a reminder. So like every 1 minute or so, you get this little reminder of like, oh yeah, where's my voice? Let me hype that back up and see if I can
Oh,
use it
that's
a little
such
bit.
a good idea. I love that. Okay. Yeah.
Right? I've been craving an app like this for so long. I never thought to look in like the mindfulness and yoga section of apps, but it's perfect.
It is. I'm going to download that. I'm excited to try that. Um,
Excellent. Now, as you were practicing, were you recording and listening back to yourself, or was it mostly thinking about how it felt in the moment?
Mostly thinking about how it felt in the moment, but I do tend to do that now with the TikToks that I record. Of because TikToks, right? They're up to 3 minutes long, recorded in small sections. So it's kind of the perfect bit for I'm saying the same thing over and over, trying to get the right take. Um,
Yeah, I love that. I think that's brilliant.
Yeah, one of my viewers just said you could check your Twitch VODs to see if your voice changes. That's a great idea because I always start out talking, practicing with the voice, and it drops. I can find the exact moment there. Recordings are super useful for that kind of thing. Thank you, Laureate
Excellent.
Lime. All
And
right,
I know throughout this process, at the end of every session, I've sent you a little compilation of some of your best work from that session.
you
So
have.
hopefully also help track your progress over time as well.
I think I actually played one of those on my TikTok at one point because I was like, "Look how good I sound."
Oh, I love that. That's beautiful.
All right.
All right. So shall we go ahead and get into some like vocal exercises?
Absolutely. And so one of the things that we had talked about before this was when we do our vocal exercises, doing some of the more basic ones than what we had been doing, because even though I'm a little further along, I want this to be approachable as a session for people who have not been doing voice training to see.
Yeah.
So is it still okay to do that, to do sort of the voice training 101 exercises?
You're not going to have to twist my arm too hard to go over some of the basics. That sounds lovely.
Perfect. Perfect. I'm glad.
Excellent. So we'll go ahead and start this off the way that we start every session off. We already did our little introductions and check-ins and whatnot. Next, I would like to do just a brief voice warm-up to get the muscles a little bit more stretched out, a little bit more flexible.
Okay.
Um, like stretching before going on a run. Uh, Apparently, that's what runners do. But
I
you
wouldn't
got to
know.
stretch those muscles before you put them through the ringer. So let's sit up straight and let's take in some nice deep breaths in through the nose, down to the belly, out through the mouth. And as you take these deep breaths, I want you to scan your body from head to toe, see if you're holding on to any excess tightness or tension anywhere. Try and
Okay.
let go of those big exhales.
All right. I think I'm good.
Excellent. Next up, I would love for you to take in a nice deep breath and produce a strong, tension-free hum from the lowest pitch that you can comfortably produce through the highest.
Okay. Hmm.
Excellent. How's all that feeling?
That felt good. That felt good.
Awesome. Deep breath in and then high to low. particular to note?
Well, that's actually a good question because somebody here is asking, what defines tension-free?
Ooh, that is a good question, and it's kind of tricky to answer. Um, Generally speaking, we want your voice to be relaxed as neutrally and comfortably as possible. As we're all just sort of sitting here and as you are attending the stream, check in with your throat here and see sort of what posture your throat is in. Is it tight and clenched, or is it just sort of sitting open and neutral and allowing that breath to move through? We want your throat to feel as close to that neutral posture as possible while producing your voice. If you start to feel a lot of tightness or tension starting to creep in, and you gotta strain that sound out by clenching everything up, chances are there's something that we can do in order to increase the health of the sound, make it a little easier to produce, and make it more sustainable. Um, Jess, would you? We didn't talk about this, so no problem if you don't. But would you happen to have a straw nearby?
A straw? I can get
Yeah.
one if you'll permit me to be off camera for about 30 seconds. So if you can hold the audience's attention for 30 seconds, actually I'll give you a question that's kind of relevant that I can answer while or that you can answer while we do this. So from my Discord server, somebody by the name of Orion, who couldn't be here for the stream, wanted me to ask you for tips on combating the stretchy or the scratchy slash sore feeling of speaking in one register or at all for too long. They said their voices, the lower voice is easier, but they can't quite project as high in their range, and they work in customer service, so not speaking is rarely an option. Um,
That is tricky.
so,
Thank you for that question.
mhm.
I'll
And
do my best
I'll
to
go grab a
answer
straw.
Yep. And I think this directly relates to what we're talking about here, which is effort in terms of producing that voice. Because if you're producing your voice with little effort, chances are good that your voice won't become sore. You know, there are other factors that might be at play here. Hydration. If you're working in customer service and talking a lot, chances are you're losing a lot of moisture that way. So make sure you're properly hydrated. Um, but in terms of voice practice and getting to a more comfortable sound, the best therapeutic tool is to use a straw. And I'm so excited that I get to go over this with y'all tonight. Um, Jess, let me know if you're back. I can't currently see
Oh,
Jess.
that's right. You can't see me. I'm waving at you with my straw.
All right, perfect. Um, so what I would like to do, Jess, is, and everyone at home could follow along with this if you're doing it. I should have mentioned this before. You can also hollow out a pen. Any sort of thin, narrow tube will do great. Um, Jess, what I would like you to do is to take in a deep breath, and then at just a comfortable pitch, I want you to produce a hum. Just
Okay.
and tell me what you feel going on.
Okay, so when you say what I feel going on, just like what that actual feeling is in my throat, or
Yeah, what are the physical sensations that you feel throughout your body?
so it feels, I can feel like I'm letting air out. I've got that big that big what do you call it? That the big breath that I took in, sort of slowly being released. I can feel my throat sort of constricts inward a little bit as I'm kind of pushing air through it, and I can feel something. I have no idea what, because I don't know the anatomy of my throat very well. Kind of moves upwards a little bit.
Excellent. Good. Good. So we're feeling lots of vibrations, a little bit of closure here. Um, there will be some activation there, some muscle activation. If your muscles are staying completely relaxed, it would just be a whisper with all that air rushing through. And this is not an ASMR stream. Is that correct, Jess?
Uh, Usually not an ASMR stream.
Okay.
Usually not.
Then delve into that too much. Um, but now what I would like you to do, Jess, is produce roughly that same pitch. It doesn't have to be exact through the straw. And tell me if anything feels different. Just like that.
It doesn't feel quite as I don't know. It doesn't feel like it's moved as much. It doesn't feel as like constricted or closed out. Constricted feels like it's got like a tense underline to it, but it's not really tension constricting as much as just like natural movement.
Totally. But you're able to get to roughly the same sound with less movement using the straw, sounds like.
Mm-hmm. It feels
Excellent.
like it.
Good.
It's
Okay.
interesting for anybody at home. One of the things I like to do with these practices is to put my hand on my throat because you can kind of feel the difference on how things move. Um, and it's sort of interesting to make that hum and put your hand on your throat and feel it, and then do the same thing with the straw and feel the difference. Hmm. Hmm. Because there is a big, very noticeable difference in how that feels.
And here's the next trick. If you can feel the difference between the two, can you make that hum feel as similar to the straw voicing? Try and keep that throat nice and relaxed and open.
Oh, I can. Oh, that's interesting.
Hell yeah.
That's a neat trick.
Yeah. So, the straw to just go over it briefly, unless y'all want to go and did some deep theory, we can. Um, the straw is essentially a shortcut to your voice's most efficient, most um, easily produced version of itself. Um, so to that person that asked the question about feeling sore and whatnot, I would encourage you to try out some straw exercises, just going up and down your pitch range like we did at the top of today, or maybe like voicing along to a song that you know, um, or saying some of the phrases that you might use in customer service. I'm sure there are phrases that you have to say literally all day, to see if you can. I have a grande macchiato for Mike. Right? Make it sort of feel the same. Um, and hopefully that should help you get to a part of your voice that is a little bit more sustainable.
Perfect. That's a really good
Yeah.
answer. That
Also, too, just like singing warm ups and stuff using those methods too.
that's a really cool trick. That was a fun thing to learn.
Good. I'm so glad. So if you feel like your pitch range is restricted or anything, the straw is a good way to help you explore sort of the edges of your voice with less risk of hurting yourself. And I know that that's what's scary for a lot of folks trying to work on their voice on their own, is not wanting to hurt yourself. Um, the straw at least helps. So check that out and then see if you can carry those sensations over to something without the straw.
Perfect. Yeah, that's really cool. I'm sorry. I'm excited to play with that. I at first I was like, oh my gosh, like practicing and training with voice stuff is going to be such a pain. I'm not looking forward to doing it. It's fun. Once I think it was after like the second week that we were doing this, just kind of playing around with it, experimenting with new things. I was like, oh, am I enjoying myself? Is this is this fun? Do I like this? Is this really cool? Um,
Oh, good. I'm so glad. It's intimidating for a lot of folks, but I feel like a lot of people are already doing a lot of voice experimentation on their own. Like if you just goof around with your voice with friends, or if you play D&D or any sort of like tabletop role playing games, and do like character voice work there, or sing for fun in the car, you're already learning how to manipulate your voice in these different ways, and that stuff is absolutely applicable here.
it really is. All right. So I think then we probably should jump back into our next exercise after the warm up and the nice tension discussion.
Yeah, sounds good. So I feel like we've done just like a little bit of basic pitch exploration. I feel like resonance might be a good thing to tackle next. Does that sound good to you?
Yes. Can you define what resonance is for people watching? Because I know this is a concept that I didn't know when we first started talking.
It's a hard one to define, and there's a lot of different opinions about what's sort of going on there. Um, so we can think of the breath or of the voice as having three main components: the breath provided by the lungs, the pitch that is generated here in the larynx by the vibration of the vocal folds. Next, all of that acoustic energy, all of that sound travels up and into the mouth and nose bounces around a lot and then comes out into the world, bounces off the walls and into our ears, and that's how we hear. So resonance involves the specific size and shape of the mouth, the oral cavity, the nasal cavity, the upper part of the throat, everything basically above the vocal folds. By changing the size and the shape of those chambers, we change the texture of the sound. I can't remember, Jess, do you play any instruments?
No, the only thing I seem to play anymore is Pokemon.
Okay, that's fair enough. Um, I cannot wait for Legends Arceus.
Oh my
Arceus.
gosh, right? I'm through the roof.
Massive sin. Um, Arceus, forgive me. So, different. I'm trying to think of the best path forward here. The truth is that we all shift our resonance all the time while we talk. Different vowel sounds have different resonance patterns. That's why even if pitch is the same, you can hear the difference between e, it's because each of those sounds has different resonance, different harmonic properties to it. Um, so, what's a way that we can make this more interactive without me just lecturing at you for a while?
You can have me do some of the, because we did some exercises with vowel sounds.
I suppose so, yeah. We could jump right into that. Jess, go ahead and let your mouth relax here. Let your jaw kind of hang loose. Let your
Okay.
tongue sit on the floor of your mouth. And everyone at home can do this too. And from that neutral position, I want you to produce an E vowel and then go back to resting. So E, rest.
E, rest. E, E.
Excellent. What's going on there? What is moving in order to produce that E vowel? What moves where?
So a lot of what's happening is the movement in the mouth, where my tongue is, how much my mouth opens, where my cheeks are sitting, as well as I can feel, again, I think chat was telling me it was probably the larynx when I said something felt like it was going up while I was making sounds. I can feel my larynx kind of moving a bit. I know it going up is sort of a newer thing because it has a lot to do with the actual resonance, and keeping that resonance up is something I've sort of worked towards. Um, but I think that's the majority of it.
I mean, those are all great observations. Absolutely. So you mentioned the lips there and sort of the mouth opening. What was happening there?
So that is almost just sort of how you form a word. I guess, which I guess is probably exactly what you were talking about a second ago when you were saying that we do resonance changes naturally, um, because most of that is the word being formed with the tongue, with the cheeks and the lips and all of that.
That's absolutely right. And you can even see it here when I do it, right?
Mm-hmm.
E, especially I'm kind of over exaggerating because it's video, but E, my lips sort of spread apart, right? They
Mm-hmm.
sort of go to the sides here.
E,
Um,
e, ooh,
in
ooh.
addition,
Huh.
the act like 2/3 of the tongue rises up in the mouth and moves forward as well sometimes. E, can you feel that movement?
E, yeah. E,
Awesome.
e. That is interesting.
Right? And you can also feel on the lyrics. I think maybe chat or you mentioned this a second ago. E, e. You can also feel the larynx rising up on that one too, right?
E, e. Yeah.
Awesome.
Ooh,
So the
ooh,
tongue is
e, e,
directly
ooh,
connected to the
ooh.
larynx.
Mm.
So when you raise the tongue up, the larynx also goes up. I know that there's a lot of discussion in like the trans like DIY community about like raising your larynx, like swallowing and kind of holding it up, um, which if it's working for you and you don't feel a lot of strain, it's hard for me to say to stop, right? But if you can approach it from this different angle, you're engaging healthier muscles that are designed for this purpose rather than like these swallowing muscles. And that's where some people can run into some voice damage. Um, so using the straw will help out with that. But back to our discussion of resonance. Um, because the tongue is raising up so much in the mouth, it is making that oral cavity space a lot smaller overall. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And so what we're wanting to do for higher resonance is smaller oral cavity, and lower resonance is a larger oral cavity, correct?
You got it. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. And you can compare that with awe at home or right now.
Oh.
If anyone's looking at sort of like darkening resonance.
Yeah, and just a quick tangent. There was one point during one of our sessions where I told you that I was having trouble with my O's because I was looking at an app that sort of would tell me what pitch my sound was at, and I would do like E, O, and they were different. And I was like, it sounds wrong. It feels deeper. It feels different. And you were like, yeah, that's because that's the way your mouth is when it makes an O. O is naturally going to be a lower sound, and kind of walked me through getting that lower sound up higher, but it is also naturally going to be lower, as some words are.
Absolutely, yeah. Every vowel has sort of a position that it needs to stick at least close to in order to be recognizable as that sound.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but also, every vowel has a little bit of wiggle room around it. Um, Jess, could you produce an oo vowel for me and tell me what's going on there?
Ooh, ooh, ooh. Okay, yeah. So ooh, I feel like my cheeks actually kind of get wider, whereas like e, they kind of go in a little bit and go e, e, ooh, ooh. It sort of creates like you said earlier, a larger oral cavity.
Yeah, yeah. So the tongue it is raised up, but it's way more towards the back. So the space in the mouth is a lot bigger. We also get these rounded lips up here to sort of make the sound even darker overall. Um, Speaking of dark resonance, can we try and produce that oo vowel from an even darker place? Um, ooh, like kind of think about like um, a stereotypical opera singer or like a giant, right?
Yeah.
Can you try that out?
Ooh, like that.
Sounds great.
Hmm.
Yeah. What'd you do for that?
So for that, let's see, I kind of I made that opening in my mouth wider. My mouth was a little bit bigger. My jaw was further down. Um, the larynx felt lower.
Perfect. So, like you said earlier, making that oral cavity space bigger makes the sound darker. Now, can we go in the opposite direction? Try and make that oral cavity space itty bitty and say ew instead.
Ooh, like that.
Awesome. Yeah,
Hmm.
was there a difference?
Yeah, it was the exact opposite of the last one. The opening of my mouth is a lot smaller. Everything was kind of contracted inward, like with my cheeks and my tongue. So it's that smaller oral cavity, larynx higher up.
Perfect. So, for folks that are like intimidated by voice practice, starting off with these smaller chunks can be a lot more approachable than just like going into conversation and practicing that way, right?
Mm-hmm.
Feel like a lot of people try and jump into it at a very high level of complexity, and that's why people get so down on themselves for having difficulty. Um, but if you reduce the difficulty of the task at hand, these properties become a lot easier to modify. Um, that was a nice presentation. Thank you, Jess.
Yeah, that's definitely going to be one of the clips that gets put on TikTok.
Gotta get the ooze up there.
The ooze.
Um,
What about the woos? The ooh woos? Pretend. No, sorry.
oh,
Hmm?
so what we're, we're talking about, I guess we should address the elephant in the ooh womb, huh?
Yeah.
Maybe I shouldn't say ooh womb. Maybe I'll take that back. Uh, so the 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 ooh woo voice, as I understand it, is sort of that like hyper cutesy, like very bright, very like small, sort of like girly voice. Am I understanding that correctly?
I think so. Yeah, I think so. I
I see that times on TikTok, and I can't get to the extreme degrees that some people can. It's wild.
Some people have a real talent with that. But I've heard your ooh woo. You say you can't get to the extreme degrees, but you ooh woo quite well.
Oh, thank you. I do woo my best. I need to stop. Um, Sort of like that, like really like a really, really bright version.
Hmm.
It sounds okay in my voice, but it's not quite. It's
I don't know.
if
I
I
think
could
that's pretty
keep
good.
practicing, then like I feel like I could get better.
Okay.
Which is the takeaway for all of voice stuff. The more energy you commit towards it and play around, the easier this stuff will be to manipulate.
Exactly.
Um,
And
absolutely.
I think the ooh woo practice itself we should save for the very end for everyone who makes it through the entire stream, which it looks like a lot of people are. We started out at 60 people and we're up to 64 now. People are coming and not leaving. It's very bizarre for my streams.
It's all because of me. I'm so engaging.
That's true. I should just hand
Um,
this channel over to you.
oh my god, no, I cannot. Um, cool. So we could possibly play around with bringing that quality up to like some words, perhaps.
Okay.
Slapping some consonants on either side of that ooh vowel and see if we can do something there.
Hmm.
Um, maybe let's try the word mood. Oh, I just typed that in the chat to suggest mood.
That's okay. I can see it. They don't need to see it.
That's fine. I think they know the word mood.
Hmm.
Um, Jess, could you say the word mood in your regular, unaffected voice a couple of times just to get a baseline?
Sure. Mood. 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 Mood.
Now, if you want to, we can have a good time and move it down to the mood if you would like.
Yeah, well, it's kind of fun to do that because it makes nice contrast when I raise it higher. So, mood, 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 mood.
Perfect. Oh, I love it. Now let's go for mood. Very bright and forward.
Mood, 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 mood. Chat is all saying mood in chat right now, and it's cracking me up. I'm losing my ability to focus. That's hilarious. Mood.
You're all doing perfectly at home. Um, excellent. So, we can continue with this complexity, slowly going from words to like short phrases to increase the difficulty, and then going up to sentences, and then going up to paragraphs after that, and then conversation as sort of like the next level of difficulty. And then honestly, above that is Twitch streaming. Y'all are, I do not have the energy for it nowadays.
That's fun. It's the highlight of my week. I love Switch streaming so much. Um,
That's great. I did a couple live streams back in the day. Oh God, when I was like in high school and college, but um, those days are behind me. I'm trying to find my Twitch stream. Um, all the cringy
that's a mood.
content you ever want.
Sorry, wait, no, hold on. Let me get this right. That's a mood. Mood. No,
That's a mood.
that's a mood.
Mood. And so like there are different levels of like brightness that you can go to, right? It's not just
Hmm.
like an on off. Is this bright or not? Um, you did a great job right there. Can we bounce around a couple of moods? Mood.
Sure.
Get really
And it's fun to do different brightnesses because even if it's too bright, it sort of helps build those muscles. So,
absolutely. So
mood,
that's right.
mood, 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 mood.
That's so good. Um, how's everything feeling? I know we were kind of pushing the voice a little hard there.
Not bad actually. I did do a lot of prep. I've been drinking mint tea all day and drinking water just because I knew we were going to be doing this and it was going to be very public and I didn't want to hurt my voice. So and I've also not had to speak a lot today. I had 0 meetings. It's the best day of my life. Um,
I'm so glad. That's great. Excellent. So I think a main takeaway, I like what you said, Jess, about like going out to the extremes, even if that's not where you want your voice to be at the end of this process. Because any and all flexibility is going to benefit you in voice work.
mhm.
Um, and testing out those boundaries will help identify them, right? You don't truly know how far is too far until you go there. You're like, yep, nope, nope, nope. Let's
Yep.
back off of that.
And another
Um,
thing is when I hear something in my head sometimes and I go, oh, that's too far, that probably sounds terrible. And then you played recordings back to me, it sounded incredible. Um, So when you're practicing at home, if you hear it and you're like, that sounds silly, that sounds ridiculous, pull out your phone and record yourself saying it and play it back. Hear how you sound.
Yeah, things can feel very different when you're producing them versus hearing it back, which is what other people hear.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Most people, I feel like, have some sort of aversion to hearing their voice recorded because of that difference.
Yep.
But obviously, for us trans folks, like if, because of dysphoria, it takes on whole other levels of complexity and anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so
Oh,
yeah, listening back to your voice is a great way to help overcome those and help undo those cognitive distortions of like, well, no, this feels how that other voice did, and that sounded great on the playback. So
mm-hmm.
if it feels the same, then I know that my voice is on track.
Yeah, and that's helped me probably the most is hearing it back because I think the clip that you sent me that I ended up sharing on TikTok because I was very happy. It was one where I was saying, "It's not great, it's not great." That one. Um,
Great.
I heard that in my head, like because the conversation we had before that, I was like, "Oh, that sounded terrible. I don't really like that." And then you put it back, and I was like, "Oh, this is the best thing I've ever heard. I really like that."
Yes. We live for those moments.
We have a
Um,
pretty good question here in chat. Axiom Light, who's one of my stream moderators, says, "Is the larynx the same thing as the Adam's apple?"
yes. The Adam's apple is part of the larynx. It's sort of a projection here that's designed to help protect the sensitive muscles and tissue behind it. Um, so yes, if you put your fingers on your throat here and sort of feel around, you should feel two bumps of varying sizes. And the lower one is the bottom of the larynx, and the higher one is the top of the larynx, known as the Adam's apple. You're absolutely right.
Perfect. Good question. Thank you.
It's called the thyroid notch if you want to use the ridiculous anatomy term for it.
Thyroid notch. Okay. I can be so pretentious with that. Thank you. I'm going to abuse this knowledge.
Beautiful. Let's see. What should we do next? I suppose we could play around like with breathiness, perhaps, or maybe like the imagery exercise of like the cone of energy, perhaps. Um,
Have we done the cone of energy? That doesn't sound familiar. I don't know if I know that one.
Let me see. That might be fun. Do something new.
Yeah, kind
Um,
of throw me off my game. I look so knowledgeable because we're talking about things that we've done before. Now everyone's gonna see how much I really know.
this is my plan all along.
Oh no.
Um, so, so this might be a good exercise to try out, Jess. It's a little abstract, so bear with me. Um, we talked about before how the voice is acoustic energy, right? It's vibrations on airwaves.
Okay.
Um, that travel up the mouth, and then as a cone of energy sort of expands out into the environment. Um, so what I would like you to do first, Jess, is let's get something a little bit longer to play around with. Um, don't no one cut out that clip of me saying let's find something longer to play around with.
The thing I've learned is that if I say don't clip this, they're going to clip it. So
Uh,
you have no one to blame but yourself for that one.
Rookie Twitch streamer mistake. Let's say the phrase "smoky fires, lack flame, heat," sort of similar to Trent's voice lessons classic. Uh,
Smoky fire lacks flame and heat. Oh, the Trans Voice Lessons classic. Is that the is Trans Voice Lessons the one that does heat from fire, fire from heat? Okay, I've
yeah,
seen that memed all over the internet. I wasn't sure where that was from.
yeah. It's a really good practice for it.
Well,
We could talk
that's
about
theirs. We
that.
can't steal it. But so smoky fire, lack flame, and heat.
Yeah, so go ahead and produce that a couple of times. Go ahead and move your voice to wherever feels comfortable, Jess. And as you produce this several times in a row, really trying to imagine that like cone of energy coming out from your mouth as you say these sentences.
Okay. And when you say comfortable, do you mean what is comfortable from a voice dysphoria standpoint or comfortable from a physical standpoint?
Ideally both. Um, but
'Cause
yeah,
I'm
feel free to move it higher in pitch and forward in resonance if you would like to.
okay. Um, Smoky fire lacks flame and heat. Smoky fire lacks flame and heat. Smoky fire lacks flame and heat. Smoky fire lacks flame and heat.
Excellent. You got that imagery sort of locked in?
I think so. Smoky fire lacks flame and heat. Smoky fire lacks flame and heat. Yeah, okay.
Excellent. It's kind of abstract, but let's see what happens with this next step. Now what I would like you to do is imagine that cone of energy is coming from your forehead. So we're going to try and produce the voice up and out of the forehead here. Smoky fires like flame and heat. Try to
Okay.
imagine that.
Smoky fires like flame and heat. 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 It felt different.
Awesome.
Did it sound different?
Absolutely it did. And I'm recording, so we'll take a listen back in just a
Oh,
second.
perfect.
The last thing that I want to do before we listen back is I would like you to imagine taking that cone of energy and producing it out of the top of the head. So really try and raise everything up and send it up and out. Smoky fires like flame and heat.
Okay, I will try my best on this one.
You're going to do great.
Smoky fires like flame and heat. 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 How's that?
I thought that was great. Did it feel different too?
It did. It felt very different. Um,
Excellent. So what we're going to do now is, well, before we listen back to it, are there any like specific sensations that you want to know before we listen?
um, it's interesting imagining that cone of energy coming out of a different place. Um,
Mm-hmm.
just everything feels higher when you do it, and not just like pitch, but just all of the muscles, my throat, my mouth, my tongue, all of it, which is interesting because for just imagining it at a different place.
Yeah, you're a good candidate for that exercise. Not everyone can latch onto that imagery as easily. Um, it's something that we used in chorus all the time, and we had to like sort of reach higher notes and whatnot. Um,
Okay.
so again, all knowledge that you have with the voice can be useful with voice work. Shall we listen back to some of these and see what you think?
Yeah, let's hear it.
Awesome. Here we go.
Smoky fire, flax flame and heat. Smoky fire, flax flame and heat. Smoky fire, flax flame and heat.
The new ones out of the forehead.
Smoky fires like flame and heat. Sorry, I muted my microphone so there wouldn't be any feedback. Wow, what a difference! I I couldn't tell that difference listening to myself in my head. I was like, it felt different. I maybe it sounded different, but wow, oh my gosh,
Yeah, you really got that exercise, and you can hear the different levels as you went through that, right?
yeah, I'm sort of blown away by that. Actually, that's the holy cow, because it what a difference.
Yeah, yeah. Seriously, that was wonderful. Did any of these different mixes like sound more or less appealing to you?
I really liked that third one. That third one was very good. Yeah, Chad is going. Oh wow! Someone said they were shooketh. This is amazing. What a difference. Um,
Yeah, it's a good little imagery exercise. And again, like I just want to reinforce to everyone at home that like as we go through this, you should always be checking for tension and making sure that everything is as relaxed as possible. Um, when we go for these sort of like extremes, we can uh, unwittingly tense up some things, and so we just want to make sure that everything is as relaxed as possible. Um, and it's sort of up to you to sort of explore that boundary and figure out where that is for you, because everyone's body is different, and everyone can do different stuff with it.
mhm. Very true.
Love it. Cool. So we're 7:50 here.
Yes.
Do we have more questions or things that have popped up?
So I've got a few more questions from Discord, and we can turn to chat for some questions. One question that I have from Capsizing Zebra is I'd like to know if there was any, or sorry, I would like to know if there is some kind of rule about how to tell if an intonation slash pronunciation is masculine or feminine.
Yeah, that's an interesting question. And I feel like it can depend a lot on sort of the cultures that you live in and move through as well. Because different cultures have different sort of standards for like masculinity and femininity and androgyny, if it's acknowledged at all. And so I think observing people around you and sort of in these different cultures that you move through and how like people that you read as more masculine or more feminine express themselves with intonation, I think that can be very helpful. Um, but there are some things that the literature suggests as like this is perceived more masculine and this is perceived more feminine. Um, but I want to encourage everyone to take those research studies with a heavy grain of salt, um, because they're often not the best research studies in the world, but we do what we can with what we have. Um, Oftentimes, if you just want the straightforward answer, which I know more people want, just like my theoretical waxing,
I
um,
think the disclaimer in the theoretical waxing is good, though. I think that's important to have there first.
right? Like otherwise, we can really instill some like toxic bullshit that I'm really not interested in instilling in my clients.
Yeah.
Um, so like speaking in very broad generalizations, it's considered more mask or more masculine to speak with less intonation variance, so less pitch rising and falling overall. And it's considered more feminine to speak with more variance. So more pitch rising, more pitch falling, as long as it's not dropping a little bit too low, because we want to make sure that your voice is staying in the place that you like. Um, so those are sort of the main tenets there. And then, as always, it's up to us, queer and trans people, to decide what part of that is useful for us versus like what they're saying that we should sound like.
Okay. I think that's a good answer. I think it's a very good answer.
Okay, it
Uh,
was long.
Sometimes long is necessary. Uh,
Honest.
there was another one. It got asked in chat, and the same person also asked it in Discord. And it seems like a really good question too. It says, "How do you hit high registers when you destroyed your vocal cords as a kid, screaming like a literal banshee?"
Ooh,
Do you have tips for
that is
that?
a good question. What'd you say? I'm so sorry.
I said, "Is that something that you have tips for?" I know that since that's a that I don't know. That feels like a very specific question, but I figured we'd ask it.
Yeah, and I feel like a lot of people go through periods of like vocal abuse when they're younger, right? Like being like producing like some really harsh sounds. Um, if you feel like your voice is still affected from something that happened several years ago, I would recommend that you seek out a specialist in terms of treating this. Um, there, there are a couple suggestions that I could possibly make, but without hearing your voice and knowing more about your history and what you're doing with your voice nowadays, it's pretty difficult to say what would be best. Um, so I would strongly recommend if you have a general practitioner, asking them for like a referral to a speech therapist or an otolaryngologist, also known as an ENT. They could take some images of your throat and see sort of what's going on there, and give you some suggestions for helping out with that.
That's a very smart answer. See the doctor.
Yeah, unfortunately, as much as I would love to help more directly, um, in general though, like doing like if your voice is hurt from something more acute, like you've been shouting at like a sports game, if they still have those, um, or just doing whatever, doing like soft vocalizations, just like soft humming to yourself, very low and relaxed in your registers, or like to a song that can heal the voice a lot more efficiently than vocal rest. This is not specific medical advice. Please consult, etc., etc., etc. But low humming, if it's comfortable, should help out a little bit.
That's good. That seems like a pretty good answer. I That seems good. Um, and then the next one that we had, where was it? Where was it? Somebody says, does it become easier to keep in that higher range without thinking about it so much? This is from Smoked Pineapple over here on Twitch. And she says, does it become easier to keep in that higher range without thinking about it so much? I assume that means like with practice. And actually, if I can answer this one and kind of steal the show from you, yes. Um, I've been practicing and it does become easier. Still sometimes find myself slipping and have to reset, but it becomes easier. And my voice, like at its baseline, is higher than where it was pretty significantly when we started this. And so I assume, Kevin, that you're going to back me up on this, that it's probably like a pretty universal thing. But I noticed for at least me personally, the answer is absolutely yes, and it has been noticeable, and it became noticeable fairly quickly when I was looking for it.
I think that's great. I think you've summarized that quite well. Um, it's just like learning any other physical skill, right? To the point
Mm-hmm.
of subconscious mastery. If you're learning how to play the piano, you start off with some just learning basic finger positions and playing up and down the scales. And if you keep at it after, you know, a decent amount of practice, you'll be able to play those more complex pieces. And then you'll be able to play those complex pieces without concentrating very much at all. And you can just kind of just vibe with your piano. Um, so absolutely, it should get easier as you continue practicing. Um, just make sure that, as always, you're producing your voice as healthily as possible as you do so. Um, Check in with your straw friend every so often. Do some straw exercises. Um, and if you keep up and give as much practice as you can throughout the day, or in whatever capacity is safe for you, it should absolutely get easier over time, just like any physical skill.
It should definitely, and it feels like it has for me, which has been really fantastic. The amount of joy that I get from that is pretty high. I got gendered correctly on the phone by a stranger the other day, and I was through the roof.
That's awesome.
Thank
Congratulations.
you, thank you. I meant to tell you that, but I guess we haven't had a session since that happened, so I'm telling that to you now, and I'm very excited about it. Um, and so I want to try to make sure we get to all the questions that we got. We got a good run of like several questions that I really like here.
Okay.
Um, this one kind of, so I've got two that kind of go together. So the first one is from uh, Leon Ibarra. I'm hoping I'm saying that correct. From my Discord server, and they've said this might be a bit of a basic question, but how do you keep up practicing discipline? And that I think goes very well with this question from Joel Rage, KYR Joel Rage, uh, that says, how do you overcome the awkwardness when you first start vocal training? I think those kind of both work in tandem.
Yeah, absolutely. Uh, so I do think you're absolutely right, Jess, because getting in daily practice, or practice as often as you can manage it, is how we sort of overcome those feelings of awkwardness and unfamiliarity. Because that's what that awkwardness is just lack of experience. Um, so the more you play around with it, the more time you can allocate towards experimenting with your voice and trying different stuff out, um, the easier and less awkward it will be. Um, as someone who was a very extroverted child and played around a lot with their voice with their brother and their dad and mom, it's been a very long time since I was very self-conscious about my voice. But that's what I've seen with a lot of people. Um, in terms of getting in that daily practice, Jess, do you have anything that you remember from our sessions that sort of helped you remember getting in
Um,
your daily practice?
Something that you said to me that was kind of the biggest, oh, duh, was to set an alarm. So I have an alarm that goes off in like the last 10 minutes of my lunch break. If I remember to take my lunch break on time, that's just a whole other thing.
I know the
Um,
feeling.
that I set, and it's just basically like, hey, take 10 minutes and do voice practice. And I I just have a permanent reminder. iPhones let you set reminders, and if you don't clear the reminders off, it just stays on your home screen, and it just says voice train. And sometimes I'll look at my phone and I'll be like, hey, I need to do this right now, and I'll practice conversationally, things like that. Um, those are the tips that you gave me that worked the best for me personally. Um,
Awesome.
and I don't remember the other tips because these are the ones that I'm using.
That's the thing is that different approaches are going to work for different people.
Hmm.
Um, Setting an alarm is definitely my favorite cueing method. For more informal practice around the house, you could try putting up sticky notes where you typically go throughout the days. You know, bathroom mirror, sink faucet, door to your room, um, etc., etc. I don't need to name the places a human goes throughout the day. Sticky notes in your workplace or on your phone in order to get that visual cue if you're going to like answer a phone call. Um, and speaking of changing like the lock screen on your phone or the background picture on your phone to something that reminds you like, oh right, where's my voice? Can be very useful. Uh, I know that imagery could be as subtle or as blatant as it needs to be for you and your brain and sort of your surroundings. Um, One of my clients just put up a big trans pride flag with the words in bold, check your voice, across it. Um, Another used like a picture of clouds to remind them to like check in with their breathing and make sure that they're breathing properly. Um, so those can be good, a little bit more subtle ways to like encourage you to keep a mental eye on your voice throughout the day.
Awesome. Thank you. That's those are all very good. I love the reminder on screen one. That's what got me to set my reminder. I had initially set a picture as my background, and I looked at it for a week and went, "Why did I set this as my background?" So I had to put just words, actual words there.
Perfect. And that's what I'm saying. Like, you know yourself best, right? And what helps you build up habits. Um, so modifying any of these techniques to something that works for you personally is incredibly wise. Everyone should do that.
I somebody in my chat just said, "Do you want us to remind you to check your voice on stream, or will that make you self-conscious?" And while I'm streaming, absolutely remind me to check my voice. That would be amazing, actually. Thank you.
I love
I'll
that.
I'll probably set it as a chat redeem. That way, if I get any new moderators, they don't think you all are bullying me for my voice. um,
Thing to check.
let's see. And then there was another really good question that I saw in here. And while I'm looking for it, because I kind of got to scroll through chat now. Uh, Somebody, and I can't find who. Oh, Pseudonix asked how long have you been teaching voice training, and they said that you have a lovely voice. Or sorry, they said you have a great voice.
Thank you. I appreciate that a lot. I have been doing transgender vocal training for almost five years next month, actually, um, which is wild. That's when I first opened up my business, uh, and thankfully, I was lucky enough to have someone in a professional mentor that was helping me get my feet under me. Um, but I've done some previous like voice disorders work before then, and in a couple other settings that I've worked in, like elementary schools, skilled nursing facilities. Um, I had also observed a couple of transgender vocal training sessions, which uh, gave me some good things to try out and some things that I knew to avoid as a trans person. Um, and I actually received transgender vocal training as a client in graduate school. Uh, Not because I was particularly dysphoric with my voice, but because I wanted to see what it could do and what it felt like to be a client in that scenario, um, which has definitely informed my practice of the ensuing years.
Perfect. That's a great question. I didn't know that you had been a client of trans voice training. That's actually really cool to find out. Um,
Uh, I did it for a semester, and the voice that I ended up with at the end was kind of, it was kind of like really, it was like sort of the uwu voice. Like it was very cutesy and sort of cheerleadery.
Uh,
Really did not fit my 6'2", 280 pound self. So, um, that again sort of reaches the importance of like at all stages, no matter who you're working with or if you're doing this on your own, this process should be a conversation between the client and the clinician.
yes.
Um, and you should feel like your opinion and perspective is valued in that space.
Yeah. Yeah, that is important, and I appreciate that you've always done that.
Happy.
All right, and then the last of the questions that I have from Discord, and then we've got one more from chat that I want to take. It says, and this is from Chris in my Discord server, and they said, most of the time my regular voice sounds masculine enough, but my customer service voice gives me away. Any tips for that?
Yeah, that's a common difficulty that I've heard. It's just so natural to go into that, like, "Hi, welcome to Bath and Body Works. What can I do for you?" Like sort of area of the voice. Um, so I think one thing that you can do, especially if it's like a customer service thing, again, which I think you said, or maybe you just described it as customer service voice.
Yeah, they just said customer service voice, but it could be customer service.
Okay, if it is customer service or any sort of job where you have phrases that you repeat a lot throughout the day, write those phrases down and practice them outside of your work setting so that when you go into your work setting, your muscles are much more familiar with that movement and it'll be a lot easier for you to get to that same vocal quality with those phrases. Um, that might help. From a slightly different angle of hearing how other like people in your workspace sort of communicate, if you consider them sort of more mask leaning, how do they sort of navigate that customer service space or those interactions? Um, might yield some inspiration for some directions to play with.
Something that has kind of helped me, but I nobody else in the world is going to be shameless enough to do this. I think everyone's going to feel self-conscious. If you have a coworker that you like their voice or their voice is closer to the range of what you want to do, get their permission first so they don't think you're completely like, stalkery, but have them say something the way that they say it and then repeat it back to them and just sort of, let them say it and then you say it. Um, I have a friend on TikTok that has just an absolutely beautiful voice, and we were talking via a video chat through Snapchat, and I was like, "Do you mind if I just like repeat words after you so I can figure out how like a feminine way to say this?" And thankfully, she was like super cool about it. And so we sat there, I think, for 10 minutes with her just like saying words and then, or like phrases, and then me saying them back to her and kind of imitating. And I found that to be really helpful. And so if you have customer service, especially if you have phrases that you have to say a lot, get your coworkers to say them and then repeat them back. Um, and the other thing too is so many people are very interested in the concept of voice training and like the kind of voice work that you have to kind of go through to get the voice that you want. That if you explain to them, hey, this is something I'm doing for my voice training process, people are generally, they're not going to judge you because they're usually pretty interested because this is a fascinating topic.
Absolutely. Um, and on the other side, it's up to you whether or not you share that info, or just say like, "Hey,
That's true.
I'm working with a voice therapist to help me out with some voice problems. Can we practice?" And I would prefer you not to ask any questions, and hopefully they should give you that space.
Yeah, that's true.
Um,
If you're not comfortable sharing it, that's totally valid. But if you are comfortable sharing it, that is a tool that you can use to get some assistance from people because people are interested in this work.
I think demystifying all of the trans experience for people who are allies or tentative allies or whatever can be an incredibly useful tool for, not tool for them, experience for them, um, and a point of connection and bonding between y'all, even
Hmm.
more importantly than this cis person's evolution.
Yeah, because it's
Um,
fun. You're gonna end the your if you're mimicking somebody, you're gonna end the session with everybody laughing and giggling and having a good time. Um, and it's just it's fun. It's a thing that you're doing with somebody. They're interested. You're interested, and if it's hard not to have fun doing it. So it's a good way to make a friend.
I love that a lot. That's great. I hadn't thought about that actually.
Oh,
Use your identity.
I'm happy to help.
Yeah. There we go. This is all for me at the end of the day.
You got all out of it. Um, and then there's a question that I've seen a few people ask now, and I don't want to scroll through chat for 10 years to find out every single person who's asked it. And you don't have to answer this one if you're not comfortable, but people are asking the inevitable cost question. Do you want to address that?
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's valid, right?
Mm-hmm.
There are speech therapists all over um, the world that charge very different rates for the service. Some can be very expensive, some can be quite affordable. Um, so, and I can't speak for all of those other folks. There's something to be said about cost of living and yada yada. Um, so I can just speak for my own
Mm-hmm.
services, I suppose. Um, so sessions are tip for me. They are 45 minutes long. They're $100 a piece. Um, if you're working with a speech language pathologist, there is a chance that you can seek insurance reimbursement, or that speech language pathologist might be in network with your insurance provider. Unfortunately, I am all private pay at this point. Um, I work in too many states to get in network with all of the different insurance companies in various states. Um, but even so, we've had some success with our clients seeking reimbursement from like Blue Cross Blue Shield, United Healthcare, a little bit with Cigna. Um, and depending on the speech language pathologist and what they find during the first session, which is usually an assessment, um, they may not have to mention anything trans related on your training plan at all. If you've got like, muscle tension or frequent hoarseness or um, stuttering that is impacting your quality of life, or any of these other things that we typically work on. We can just sort of like sneakily fold in trans voice stuff on the side.
Oh,
Uh,
that's right. Somebody earlier was asking about some lasting vocal damage from when they were younger. They might be able to, for instance, use that to leverage their insurance. This is not me telling you to go out and damage your voice to get free trans voice lessons. I'm not saying that. I need to just put that out there right now.
Got to get in front of things like this.
Yep.
But typically we start on like a weekly basis when we're starting off. There's daily practice homework email in between each session. And then as a client gets more comfortable and confident with the work that they're getting done outside of our sessions, we usually dial back that frequency to like once every other week. And then eventually we may even dial that back to once a month. Um, so
Can
we gradually decrease the amount of support that you're receiving from me, and decreasing the financial burden by half each time.
can you see the stream chat right now?
Me?
Yeah, somebody just dropped in the stream chat and said, "How frequently do you do lessons?" And you started talking about it. Was that just a coincidence, or were you answering them directly?
No, it's just a coincidence.
Oh wow! I was like, "How did you do that?"
Green stipend hours. Um, no, it's just about general cost and whatnot. Because being trans is expensive, right? And
Hmm. Being trans
any
is expensive.
therapist, any ethical therapist wants you to get people in and out of their services as quickly and efficiently as possible without leaving any voice concerns unaddressed. Um, I certainly consider myself among that number. Um, we see the average client getting discharged in about 10 to 12 sessions, but there can be quite a bit of variance between different people and goals that they're looking to address and relationships with their voice. So it can vary quite a bit, but that's hopefully that rough estimate helps at least a bit.
Perfect. Yeah, and I think that covers it pretty well. Um, and actually, I know I said that was the last question, but there. Oh, sorry. Say again.
I just said fabulous. I talk
Oh,
a lot.
okay. You held up your hand. My brain was like, "Is this a question?" But we do have one more actually that I think is a pretty good one, and this is from T underscore Ember Lily, and Ember Lily says, "Will you ever branch out to other states? I really like the way you go out this session, but I'm on the other side of the country."
Mm. Um, that is a tough question. My most straightforward answer is I would probably look into hiring other folks to work in these other states. My caseload is pretty dang full with the 4 states that I have currently. Um, if you're out west, meaning like California or Oregon or Washington, you actually have quite a few options for speech therapists that are in the area and who approach this work from an excellent perspective. Um, if you or anyone else watching the stream wants to DM me and ask for um, a referral to someone in their state, like please don't hesitate to do so.
And where can they
Um,
DM you at?
oh, great question. Because on TikTok you need to be like friends and whatnot, right?
Uh,
Um,
well, I'm set. You can set your DMs to be public on TikTok. I'm set to friends only on TikTok because uh, I was getting several hundred messages a day, and it was overwhelming. But I believe for most people that you can set your DMs to be open to anybody, and you're also on Instagram and you have an email address. Do you want if you want to share those?
yeah. Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, Reddit, all at Prismatic Speech. So feel free to go there. You can also email me at kevin@prismaticspeech.com.
And for the VOD of this that I'll be posting on YouTube and the highlights that I'll be posting on TikTok, I will have that text written on screen. So if you're not sure how to spell it, um, so we'll make sure you can do that. Perfect. All right.
Love it.
And now, do you want to do since about I think we said we were gonna go for about an hour and a half, and it's been about an hour and 17 minutes. Do you want to do the thing that everyone has been kind of requesting with the uwu practice?
Yeah, for sure. Um, I think, I honestly think the imagery exercise that we used earlier might help us out quite a bit even.
Oh, it
Um,
might.
imagine, yeah, imagine that code of energy and trying to ooh woo out of the top of your head.
Okay, I can definitely do that. For the TikTok clip, can I get you to sort of explain the cone of energy from the ground up, so I can make this into a full, concise thing to post in other places?
Yeah, absolutely. So first off, we're gonna imagine our voice as a code of energy coming out of our mouth as we say ooh woo. Jess, would you mind leading
Okay.
the way?
Uwu. That's my standard uwu
Brilliant.
with no changes. And then you said to do a cone of energy as if it were coming from the top of my head now, right?
That's right. See if you can aim your voice up and out.
Okay. Um, Let me just hold on. Let me get my cat ears for this. Uh, uwu, 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 uwu. Ooh, woo. Oh, um, somebody just started rating the stream. So, Captain Goatbeard, thank you for bringing 5 viewers with you. I can explain, like, I can explain everything that's happening right now. Um,
This is speech kids, damn it.
yeah, it's speech
This is
therapy.
serious
This is
business.
serious speech therapy. Ooh, woo. How was it? How was the ooh wooing?
Oh, I thought it was beautiful. How did it
Excellent.
feel?
It felt good. It felt very good. Um,
Awesome.
Somebody says, "Can
Here's
you
here's
explain?"
where
Oh,
your voice
whoa.
was.
I cannot. I don't know the difference. Sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying. Here's roughly where your voice was coming out for those.
It will. It will. It will. It will.
I'm pretty
It
proud of
will. Oh,
this. I'm pretty proud of this.
They came out great. I thought that was awesome for just like a first run at
Yeah, well,
exercise.
first run at uwooing, definitely. I've never tried before.
Never, never in your life. Um, awesome. awesome. Well, that was pretty straightforward. Like, well, you tell me, how satisfied are you with this ooh woo? Are you hearing anything that should be different or that you want to try and change up?
I'm actually very satisfied. I didn't think it was going to be that easy to nail.
Yeah, you crushed it.
Yeah, I'm
Some sessions are like that. The client is just like,
for sure.
oh yeah, I got this in the bag.
This cone of energy visualizing thing is kind of amazing. I'm probably going to be doing that for the rest of my life as I practice. Um, it occurred to me that you can't see me right now, so you're just hearing the jingling from my cat ears with no context.
It's all good. It is all good. Yeah, I think keeping that imagery sort of locked in is great, especially when you can concentrate on it. And over time, as with all of these things, the more you use it and the more you can concentrate on it and make sure it's there, the more automatic and more natural and more nuanced those ooh woos will become.
Yeah,
Um, so keep up exploring those ooh woos, and you're gonna do great.
perfect. I think I am gonna do woo great. Do ooh woo. I've tried. How do you make it sound so natural when you do it? You throw the ooh woo into words and it just kind of rolls. I feel stunted with it. That's a talent, Kevin.
What can I say? I was a cat girl another life. For a couple of years. Yikes.
Well, um,
Um,
yeah.
so fun. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for coming on and doing this. I really appreciate it. And yeah, I just this has been great. We covered pretty much everything that I wanted to cover, and this went really well. Is there anything that you want to say before the end of the stream, or any points that you want to give, last second tips? Um,
Um, ooh, let me think.
oh, chat is saying thank you.
Oh, you're so welcome, chat. Um, I think one thing that I'll say, and I'll respond to this on TikTok too, because I think it deserves its own video once I can uh, say something cohesive about it. Um, a couple folks have mentioned feeling like really fake when they're practicing their voice or trying out stuff. Um, and one thing that I want to put forth is that no matter what sound you're producing, it is your voice, right? Um, so it's
Hmm.
all you. And regardless of what you're doing with it, it is the voice of someone of your gender, right? Even if it is on the lower side or on the higher side or whatever. It's just part of the natural, beautiful variety of voices in the world. Um, so no one should have to do voice training unless they want to. Um, Everyone around you in your life should accept you and respect your pronouns regardless of what you do with your voice. And
That is so true.
if they don't, that's on them. Um, but I understand that that's sort of a highfalutin, theoretical position that doesn't. People got to survive, right, and be comfortable and live their lives. So um, keep at it. Try stuff out. It's all your voice. It's all you. Um, and as you continue practicing it, it will get easier and more fluid and more nuanced. So keep it up and try and not let the dysphoria get you down because there's some brighter days on the other side, always.
Hell yeah. Perfect. That was a good final thing to add. uh,
Boom.
Perfect. So yes, the VOD for today's stream will be available. It'll be available on Twitch directly after the stream for 1 week. And before that week is up, I will have it uploaded on my YouTube channel. I will do a little bit of editing to cut out some of the technical difficulties that we had earlier and see if I can't clean up the audio. Um, the audio is being recorded on a separate track on my computer right now, and I'm hoping that that might be what's causing it to be kind of funky on stream, and that tracked version will be perfect. But if not, you still sounded great, Kevin. Um, and I'm, yeah, pardon. But yeah, so
I just said you did too. You did.
oh, good, good.
That was fun.
And do you want to plug your social medias one last time? I know you recently just got on TikTok. Do you have the ability for people to ask you questions on TikTok? I know. I'm sure people will come up with a lot more questions for you.
I don't know if they can or if people just haven't decided to send me a DM yet.
Well,
So,
let's
um,
check. Okay, it looks like you do
but
not
if
have the
not,
Q&A feature just yet, but people can ask you questions in the comments on your
okay,
video.
okay, perfect. I'll look into that other feature too because that sounds great.
Perfect.
Thank you for bearing with my boomer brain and having me out, having me on your stream. It's
Thank you
perfect
for
though,
coming to my stream. I really appreciate you being willing to do this.
of course. Uh, are you going to be streaming after this, or is this going to be it for you tonight?
This is probably going to be it for me tonight. I had to drive a friend to the airport today, so I've spent 3 hours in the car and then also worked a full 8 hours. And then set all of this up because I had Twitch had a huge data breach, so I had to go through and reset up a lot of stuff for my account to be able to stream tonight. So I'm gonna go and finally eat dinner. Um,
Well, please have a lovely dinner and a lovely rest of your night, and everyone in chat too.
Thank you, and thank you
Um,
again so
may
much for
you take.
coming.
Yes, of course. We'll talk soon, Jess.
Talk soon. Bye
Bye.
bye. Okay, perfect. All right, and we will go back to my regular chatting screen. Everyone, thank you so much for coming by. This has been a really great stream. I had desktop notifications off, but I want to read out a few thank yous to people who subscribed because we had a lot of new subscribers today, and that's really exciting. Um, so Captain Goatbeard, thank you for the tier 1 subscription 7 month streak. Sussy Ducks, thank you for the follow. Also, Captain Goatbeard, thank you for the raid earlier. Um, oh, I need to make this thing bigger so I can see more stuff. Who else? Because we there we go. Real Needle 44, thank you for the Prime subscription. Custards, thank you for the Prime subscription. Justin Generic Trans, thank you for the Prime subscription. Illusory B, thank you for gifting a sub and for subscribing. I really appreciate you all. Uh, Mighty Mikachu, thank you for the follow. You all are absolutely amazing. Um, Let's see, we got a lot of people in here. Let's see if anybody's online to raid. Nobody that I know super well is online to raid. Oh, Adri Babies is online. They play Final Fantasy and they're super nice. I saw them on somebody else's stream. Sadly, couldn't watch you to work, but hope I saved the VOD. Yes, the VOD will be up on my YouTube channel. The YouTube channel is on my Beacons page. I recently made my YouTube channel. I think this will be the first like real video other than like some VODs of my Pokemon streams. So go follow me over there. It's the channel name is Pirate Princess Jess. And yeah, let's start a raid. All right. So we're gonna just once this is loaded up, we'll jump over and we will go to Adri Baby's channel, and I'm gonna go get some food. I hope you all have a wonderful night. Where's the raid now? And oh, that's right. This is still running. YouTube, you're probably not gonna see this. I'm gonna cut this bit out, or maybe I won't. But thank you all again for watching, and I really appreciate.